Each morning is a doorway. Before the noise of the world begins, before doubts and worries try to take their place in your mind, there is a quiet moment where you can choose the direction of your life. Words spoken in that moment carry great power because the subconscious mind accepts them as seeds, and whatever is planted there must eventually grow into form. Many people begin their day with fear, rushing thoughts, and worries about what might go wrong. But the person who understands the law of the spoken word begins the morning differently. They rise and declare truth instead of fear, faith instead of doubt, abundance instead of lack. When spoken with conviction, these words move unseen forces and align circumstances in surprising ways. The first thing to say each morning is welcome this day with joy, and I expect wonderful things to happen. These words open the door to possibilities. When you expect goodness, your mind becomes alert to opportunities, blessings, and solutions that were always present but previously unnoticed. Expectation is like a magnet. It draws experiences that match the feeling behind the words. The second declaration is divine intelligence guides me in every step I take today. When you say this, you release the burden of confusion and uncertainty. Instead of struggling to control every detail, you allow a higher wisdom to guide your thoughts and actions. Ideas appear at the right moment, the right people cross your path, and decisions become clear because you are no longer relying only on your limited perspective. The third thing to say is, everything I do today leads me toward success. This statement dissolves the fear of mistakes. Even events that once seemed like failures become stepping stones. When the mind accepts that every action is part of progress, you walk with greater confidence, and confidence attracts cooperation from others. The fourth declaration is in sense. I attract opportunities, prosperity, and helpful people today. Life responds to the picture held in the mind. If the picture is one of struggle and isolation, the world mirrors that image. But when you speak of opportunities and support, you begin to notice doors opening where walls once stood. People who can help you appear almost as if they were guided there. The fifth thing to say is, my words and thoughts create harmony wherever I go. This declaration changes how you move through the world. Instead of expecting conflict or criticism, you carry the atmosphere of peace with you. Your tone softens, your reactions become calmer, and others naturally respond with greater kindness and respect. The sixth declaration is monosis. Fear is often only a habit of thought repeated for so long that it feels natural, but the moment you consciously release it and claim courage, the mind begins to form new patterns. Courage does not mean the absence of uncertainty. It means moving forward while trusting that the path will unfold. The seventh thing to say is, I am worthy of abundance, love, and success. Many people unknowingly block their blessings because they believe they do not deserve them. When you affirm your worthiness, you remove that invisible barrier. The mind begins to accept prosperity and happiness as natural parts of life, rather than rare exceptions. The eighth declaration is physics. Today I give my best, and life returns its best to me. Life reflects the energy we offer it. When you approach the day with sincerity, effort, and enthusiasm, the world often responds with surprising generosity. Even small actions carry a ripple effect that returns in unexpected ways. The ninth and final thing to say each morning is accents. Something amazing is already being arranged for me. These words create anticipation. They remind the mind that unseen forces are always at work. While you go about your day, circumstances begin quietly aligning. A conversation leads to an idea leads to an opportunity leads to a transformation. When these 9 statements become part of your daily morning ritual, they gradually reshape the inner landscape of your mind. Thoughts become more constructive, emotions more stable, and actions more purposeful. What once felt difficult begins to feel natural. The outer world is only a reflection of the inner one. Change the words you speak to yourself each morning, and you begin to change the direction of your life. Over time, you will notice that challenges feel lighter, opportunities appear more often, and your confidence grows stronger. Morning after morning, these simple declarations build a powerful momentum. They remind you that your words are not empty sounds. They are creative forces that shape experiences, influence decisions, and open doors that once seemed impossible to unlock. The way a person begins the morning quietly shapes the entire direction of the day. Before the world speaks to you through news, messages, responsibilities, and noise, there is a sacred moment where your own words become the first influence on your mind. In that quiet space, whatever you choose to declare becomes a seed planted deep within the subconscious. The subconscious mind does not argue or question. It accepts impressions and works faithfully to bring them into expression. Because of this, the words spoken at the beginning of the day are far more powerful than most people realize. Many people rise in the morning already rehearsing problems. Their first thoughts drift toward worries about money, concerns about work, memories of past disappointments, or fears about what the day might bring. Without realizing it, they are giving instructions to their inner mind. The subconscious hears these thoughts as commands and begins arranging circumstances that match those expectations. When fear is spoken repeatedly, it becomes a pattern, and the outer world soon reflects that pattern through tension, delays, misunderstandings, and obstacles. Yet the same law works in the opposite direction when a person learns to speak words of truth, faith, and expectation at the beginning of the day. When the first declarations of the morning carry confidence and gratitude, the mind begins to move in a different direction. The subconscious receives those words as seeds of possibility, and quietly it begins shaping the day to reflect them. Thoughts guide emotions, emotions guide actions, and actions guide results. Imagine waking in the morning and declaring with calm certainty that the day holds opportunities, harmony, and progress. Even before anything has happened, your mind begins searching for evidence that confirms those words. You notice solutions instead of problems. You speak with more assurance. You approach conversations with calm instead of defensiveness. The energy you carry into the world changes, and people often respond to that energy without knowing why. Words are not empty sounds drifting into the air. They carry feeling, belief, and imagination. When a word is spoken with conviction, it forms a mental picture. That picture becomes impressed upon the subconscious mind, and the subconscious works constantly to bring the picture into reality. This is why repeating positive declarations every morning gradually transforms the direction of life. A person who says each morning that success follows their actions begins to behave differently throughout the day. They become more willing to take initiative, to speak confidently, to share ideas, and to recognize opportunities that once went unnoticed. Because their mind expects progress, they naturally move in ways that support that expectation. Success then appears not as a miracle but as the natural outcome of an aligned mind. The opposite also reveals itself clearly. Someone who wakes each day thinking, "Nothing ever works out for me," unknowingly builds a pattern of hesitation and doubt. Even when a chance for improvement appears, they may hesitate to act because their mind expects disappointment. Their words become self-fulfilling instructions that limit what could have been possible. The morning offers a powerful opportunity because the mind is especially receptive during those early moments after waking. The conscious mind has not yet become busy with analysis and distraction. The subconscious mind is open and impressionable, ready to accept whatever ideas are placed before it. This is why the first words spoken after waking carry such influence over the rest of the day. When someone deliberately fills that moment with words of faith and expectation, they create a foundation for their thoughts, emotions, and decisions. Instead of reacting to circumstances throughout the day, they move forward with a sense of direction already established within the mind. Their declarations become like a compass, guiding their attention toward favorable outcomes. These morning words also influence the emotional atmosphere within a person. A declaration of gratitude softens the heart and replaces tension with calm appreciation. A declaration of guidance removes the heavy burden of trying to control every detail. A declaration of success awakens courage and initiative. Gradually, the inner world becomes more balanced and confident, and the outer world begins to mirror that change. Over time, repeated declarations form new mental pathways. Thoughts that once felt unnatural begin to feel familiar. Confidence replaces hesitation. Expectation replaces doubt. Instead of beginning the day with uncertainty, the mind begins each morning already aligned with progress and possibility. People often believe their circumstances control their thoughts, But in truth, the opposite is frequently more accurate. Thoughts and words shape perception, and perception shapes experience. When a person consistently declares positive truths each morning, they gradually train the mind to focus on what is constructive rather than what is discouraging. This shift may seem subtle at first. The day may still contain challenges, unexpected delays, or moments of frustration, yet the person who has spoken words of faith in the morning approaches those moments differently. Instead of feeling defeated, they look for solutions. Instead of assuming failure, they expect resolution. Their mindset transforms obstacles into temporary situations rather than permanent barriers. As days turn into weeks and weeks into months, the influence of these morning declarations becomes more visible. Opportunities appear that once seemed distant. Relationships improve because communication becomes calmer and more positive. Work becomes more productive because the mind expects progress rather than difficulty. What began as a simple practice of speaking and powering words each morning slowly reshapes the inner world of thought and belief. The subconscious mind continues receiving those repeated messages, building a powerful inner conviction that success, harmony, and opportunity belong naturally in your life. Many people move through life believing that fear is a natural companion of success. They think worry will prepare them, doubt will protect them, and hesitation will keep them safe from disappointment. Yet fear rarely protects anyone. Instead, it clouds judgment, weakens confidence, and blocks the flow of creative ideas that could solve problems and open doors. When fear dominates the mind, even the simplest tasks feel heavy, and opportunities appear threatening rather than exciting. There is another way to approach life, a way that replaces fear with faith through the power of spoken declarations. Words have the ability to shall, if the entire atmosphere of the mind. When spoken with belief, they become instructions that guide the subconscious toward a different emotional and mental state. Fear may appear strong, but it often survives only because it has been repeated so many times in thought and speech that it feels familiar. A person who continually says, "I am not sure if things will work out," trains the mind to expect uncertainty. The subconscious accepts this message and quietly begins organizing thoughts and reactions that match it. The person becomes cautious, overly careful, and hesitant to move forward. Even when possibilities appear, fear whispers that something might go wrong, and hesitation slowly replaces progress. When declarations of faith enter the mind, a different pattern begins forming. Faith-filled words speak directly to the deeper levels of thought, where beliefs are formed. Instead of reinforcing doubt, these words introduce the idea that guidance, support, and success are already present and ready to unfold. Consider what happens when someone begins the day by declaring that they are guided by wisdom in every decision they make. At first, the words may simply feel encouraging, but as they are repeated day after day, they begin shaping the mind's expectations. The person becomes calmer when making choices because they no longer believe they must struggle alone. Their mind relaxes, allowing clearer thinking and creative solutions to appear naturally. Fear often thrives in silence and imagination. It creates pictures of failure, embarrassment, loss, or rejection, and those pictures can feel incredibly real, even when they have never occurred. The mind responds emotionally to these imagined situations, producing anxiety that influences behavior. Faith-filled declarations interrupt this pattern by introducing new pictures of success, confidence, and harmony. When someone declares that their actions lead them toward success, the mind begins forming images of progress rather than defeat. Those images create motivation instead of hesitation. The person approaches tasks with more determination because their inner language supports their effort instead of weakening it. Faith does not ignore challenges or pretend difficulties do not exist. Instead, it changes the interpretation of those difficulties. A person guided by fear sees obstacles as proof that something is wrong. A person guided by faith sees obstacles as temporary conditions that can be overcome with patience, creativity, and persistence. A fearful statement often produces tension in the body and confusion in the mind. Muscles tighten, breathing becomes shallow, and concentration weakens. A faith-filled statement creates a completely different response. The body relaxes, breathing becomes steady, and the mind begins searching for possibilities rather than threats. This shift may seem small at first, but repeated daily, it transforms how a person experiences the world. The individual who replaces fearful language with confident declarations begins to notice subtle changes. Conversations feel easier, decisions become clearer. Opportunities appear less intimidating and more inviting. Another remarkable effect of faith-filled declarations is how they influence interactions with other people. Confidence expressed through calm and positive language often attracts cooperation. People naturally respond to certainty and optimism because those qualities feel reassuring. A person who expects harmony in their conversations often communicates more clearly and listens more patiently, which leads to better understanding. Fear, on the other hand, often creates defensive communication. Someone who expects criticism may respond with irritation or withdrawal before criticism even appears. Their words carry tension and others sense that tension immediately. In this way, fear quietly shapes relationships in ways that reinforce the original expectation. Faith-filled declarations change that dynamic by establishing a different emotional tone. When a person speaks with confidence about success, guidance, and positive outcomes, their presence becomes calmer and more inspiring. This influence may not always be obvious, yet it affects how others perceive and respond to them. Over time, repeating declarations of faith gradually replaces old patterns of fearful thinking. The subconscious mind absorbs these repeated messages and begins accepting them as truth. Thoughts that once seemed unrealistic begin to feel natural. Confidence becomes a habit rather than an effort. The individual who once hesitated to take action begins stepping forward more willingly. Instead of asking whether something might fail, they ask how it might succeed. Instead of focusing on potential problems, they consider potential solutions. Their mental energy shifts from protection against imagined dangers toward creation of meaningful progress. Faith-filled declarations also awaken a deeper sense of trust in life itself. When someone repeatedly affirms that they are guided, supported, and capable of success, they gradually release the constant pressure to control every outcome. This does not lead to passivity. It leads to purposeful action, combined with inner calm. A person moving with faith still plans, works, and takes responsibility, yet their actions are no longer fueled by anxiety. Their mind remains open to ideas, cooperation, and unexpected opportunities. When difficulties arise, they approach them with curiosity rather than panic. Fear narrows vision and restricts imagination. Faith expands vision and encourages creativity. The more a person fills their daily language with words of confidence, guidance, and expectation, the more their mind begins operating from a place of possibility rather than limitation. Each declaration spoken with sincerity becomes another seed planted within the subconscious. Those seeds grow quietly through repeated attention, gradually transforming beliefs that once felt permanent. Fear loses its authority because it is no longer reinforced by constant repetition. Faith gains strength because it is spoken, imagined, and accepted as the natural state of the mind. Consistency has a quiet power that often goes unnoticed. Many people expect transformation to appear suddenly, like a dramatic moment where everything changes at once. Yet the most lasting change usually happens gradually through small actions repeated day after day. Morning declarations work in this same way. At first, they may seem simple, even ordinary, but when spoken consistently, they begin to reshape the deeper patterns of the mind. The subconscious mind learns through repetition. Whatever ideas are repeated with feeling eventually become accepted as truth. This is why people sometimes carry limiting beliefs for years without realizing where they came from. Those beliefs were often repeated silently in thought or reinforced by past experiences until they became deeply rooted. Morning declarations introduce a new set of ideas into the subconscious mind. When a person deliberately speaks words of confidence, success, guidance, and abundance each day, they begin planting new mental seeds. At first, the old patterns may still appear stronger. Doubt may whisper that the words are unrealistic or that nothing is changing. Yet repetition continues to work quietly beneath the surface, slowly shifting the balance of belief. Each day, the declarations reinforce the same message: life is moving toward greater harmony, opportunities are appearing, and success is becoming natural. The subconscious mind receives these messages repeatedly and begins accepting them as familiar. Once an idea becomes familiar, the mind starts organizing thoughts and behaviors that support it. A person who declares each morning that they attract opportunities begins paying more attention to possibilities around them. They may notice conversations, ideas, or openings that previously seemed insignificant. Because the mind now expects opportunities, it naturally becomes more alert to them. Consistent declarations also influence emotional habits. Many individuals wake each morning with a sense of pressure or worry without knowing exactly why. Their mind has become accustomed to expecting problems. By replacing those thoughts with declarations of progress and harmony, the emotional atmosphere of the morning begins to change. Instead of starting the day with tension, the mind becomes calmer and more focused. This calmness carries into daily activities. When challenges arise, the person who practices consistent declarations is less likely to react with frustration because their inner expectation has already been aligned with positive outcomes. Another remarkable effect of repetition is the way it strengthens confidence. Confidence rarely appears instantly. It grows through repeated experiences of self-assurance. When a person declares each morning that their actions lead to success, they begin approaching tasks with more courage. Even small successes reinforce the belief that progress is happening. These small moments accumulate over time. A conversation goes better than expected. A decision leads to improvement. An idea receives encouragement. Each experience becomes evidence that the new belief is working. Confidence grows not only from the declarations themselves, but from the results they begin to attract. Consistency also shapes discipline. The simple act of speaking empowering words every morning creates a ritual that reminds the mind of its purpose. It becomes a daily moment of alignment where thoughts are directed intentionally instead of wandering through old patterns of worry or doubt. The mind appreciates rhythm and routine. When declarations are repeated at the same time each morning, the subconscious begins anticipating that moment of focus. The words enter the mind more easily because they are associated with a familiar habit. What once required effort eventually becomes natural. Over time, this daily practice strengthens the connection between thought and action. A person who repeatedly declares success begins taking actions that support that declaration. They may work with greater attention, communicate more confidently, and pursue goals with renewed determination. The outer results of life often follow these inner adjustments. Opportunities appear more frequently because the individual is prepared to recognize and respond to them. Relationships improve because positive expectations influence communication and behavior. Work becomes more productive because the mind is focused on solutions rather than limitations. Some people abandon positive declarations too quickly because they expect immediate dramatic changes. Yet the subconscious mind works gradually, much like a garden where seeds require time to grow. Each repetition adds strength to the new belief. Even if the results are not immediately visible, patience becomes an important companion to consistency. Trusting that the process is working allows the mind to remain open and receptive. Doubt often interrupts growth by weakening the emotional energy behind the words. Faith in the daily practice allows the seeds of new belief to develop without interference. Consistent declarations also reshape identity. Instead of seeing themselves as someone struggling to improve, a person begins seeing themselves as someone who naturally attracts success, harmony, and opportunity. Identity influences behavior more strongly than temporary motivation. When identity changes, actions follow almost automatically. The individual who once doubted their abilities begins thinking differently about challenges. Instead of questioning whether they are capable, they approach situations with the expectation that solutions will appear. Their mind searches for creative answers, rather than reasons to hesitate. Over weeks and months, the accumulation of these subtle changes creates a noticeable shift in life's direction. The person who once felt uncertain about the future begins feeling guided and purposeful. Situations that once caused anxiety become manageable because confidence has grown steadily through repetition. Morning declarations act like gentle architects of the mind, shaping beliefs brick by brick through daily attention. The words spoken each day reinforce the same vision of progress, opportunity, and success until that vision becomes the natural lens through which the world is viewed. The power of this practice lies not in intensity but in persistence. Each morning adds another layer of belief, another moment of alignment, another reminder that the mind holds creative influence over experience. Gradually, the new pattern becomes stronger than the old one, guiding thoughts, emotions, and actions toward outcomes that reflect the declarations spoken at the beginning of each day.